Okay, so I don't know if this thing's... That's broken. All right, everybody, hold on. We are running a really rinky-dink excuse for a live stream tonight. Well, give me a minute while we get into this here. What are you guys talking about? What's broken with it? It's not broken, is it? Oh, hold on. I gotta watch an ad on my own YouTube channel. Somebody explain that to me. All right, it is working. All right, so I need to get shit together here, but this is thrown together, and the reason I'm doing this now is because this is literally my only chance to do this over the next couple of days, and there's been a lot of people that have been wanting this content, so I'm trying to provide it here. And this is not going to be any sort of instructionary or instructed whatever. It's not instructions for anything specific, but I do want to, hold on. I'll log into iPad. But what I do want to do is I'm basically testing the algorithm with this just to see, you know, how these things go. I do want to open up, oh boy, does my alert map work? Guys, I'm going to show you, I'll show you real quick the new alert map that's, never mind, that's broken. Okay, cool. All right, never mind. So I was going to show you the alert map that I built that goes in our app, but apparently that's broken. So awesome, cool. So we're going to go ahead and ignore that, and I guess we can take a look at like pivotal weather here. Actually, we'll just go to weather.gov. I want to show you guys kind of the idea here. I cannot connect to server. Are you bloody kidding me? All right, well, I guess we're not doing anything today because IHG's internet sucks. So we have a lake effect snow warning that's here. Well, that explains why this piece of shit's not working then. Okay, hold on. Maybe it's not broken. But we have a lake effect snow warning in effect for Erie. Well, yeah, Erie all the way up to like Buffalo, New York, and then there's some up there by Watertown. I'm not as interested in that though. Hold on here. I'm gonna try to hotspot off my phone. Give me a second. Cross your fingers. Nothing works. Nope. Cool. But I think weather.gov should work. Weather.gov does work, so I'll show you. We have lake effect snow warnings here in the green and up here in the green. Those are winter weather advisories in purple. We're mostly interested in these winter or lake effect snow warnings here. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania tonight. Thanks everybody for joining in so far. I will put this back there. So basically what I'm trying to test the waters on, I'm going to limit this live stream to something like reasonable. So we're going to try to limit this to like half an hour, but there's been honest... Are you fucking serious? Hello? Yeah. Yeah, everything's great, thanks. Yeah. That was not staged. What the fuck? Leave me alone. I just want to be left alone. I can't get left alone anywhere I go. This is ridiculous. So let me get logged into the chat, but this is basically, that I swear to God, that was not staged. As kind of funny as that was, it was not staged. But what I wanted to do here, guys, like I said, test the waters. And a lot of folks are wondering, you know, what kind of equipment should they carry, these storm chasers and everything. And I kind of really wanted to test the waters and give you guys kind of a breakdown of some of the shit that I carry to use to not die. No, that was the front desk calling to make sure I got into the room. And it's like, well, why? Should I not have gotten into the room? Like, is there something going on here? So first of all, I want to go ahead and give the disclaimer. Listen, folks, this is not any sort of like training video. Those are coming. I'm not a doctor, but I did pretend to be one in the back of an ambulance for almost 8 years. And what I would like to remind everybody is, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are going to talk about how this is, oh, you're going to get sued for doing this, blah, blah, blah. Number one, no, I'm not. Number two, nobody cares. Number three, get off my channel if you don't like it. because that's what's going to happen. This every time we go into this stuff, it brings up all this a horrible attitude of, oh, storm chasers shouldn't even do this. No, they should. If you're going to be out there and videotape and profit off of other people's misery and destruction and death, then yes, you should be able to put a Band-Aid on, basically. So we're going to go through a couple of things. Now, what I want to go as a disclaimer on this too, everybody talks about this CPR stuff, right? This cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Cardio is your heart, pulmonary is your lungs, and resuscitating would be the end goal. What I want everybody to remember is that's kind of a crock of shit for what we're getting into, right? I would say that 90% of these incidents or medical incidents that a storm chaser is going to come by after some sort of traumatic event is going to be something that's stop the bleed related. They're going to have a traumatic injury, they're bleeding, they're in shock, something like that. If you come across somebody that's been impaled by a 2x4 in their neck and they have no pulse, your CPR is going to do absolutely nothing. Number two, I understand that it's a little bit controversial, but every EMS scope of practice I've ever had, every protocol has just always been CCR, which is cardio-cerebral resuscitation. It's basically it's the concept that you have enough air in your lungs to last long enough, to get some help and just do compression. So people, you do not need to go and put your mouth on somebody else's mouth and start blowing air in them. I know that there's been a lot on the internet where people are like, that's disgusting. It is. It's absolutely disgusting. You don't know what disease that person has or where they've been. And I know that sounds cruel, but it is honest to God truth. It's disgusting. Okay, especially in a post-COVID world, it is absolutely disgusting. So if you are not comfortable with that, then you should be able to do, CCR, which is compressions only, CPR basically. And I am going back. I'm going to go get my instructor credential. I used to have an instructor credential through American Heart Association for that, but I'm going to go back and get that just so we can do, official videos. And basically I can get, I don't have to go through these stupid renewal classes then if I teach one a year. So we're not doing, BLS healthcare provider CPR stuff right now. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But what I do want to do is give you guys a rundown of the stuff that you can use to basically save your own life or other people's. And everything that you're going to see, this is just an introductory to kind of test the algorithm. This is all stuff that we're going to go into depth on later. Okay, very in depth on later. And there's absolutely no strings attached. I'm not charging for this. We're not expecting money, but I'm basically doing a lot of this to prove a point because I am under attack recently. I am the enemy of the weather community, which is fine. I don't want anything to do with the weather community, but I am just the worst person in the world. But I think if everybody's going to go ahead and form that opinion, especially you, Andy, you can at least listen to some of this stuff because a lot of this stuff's getting overlooked in this industry, and there's a lot of people out here that want to help other people, in the capacity of some sort of first responder or medical first aider or whatever, and they don't know where to start. So maybe this is going to give everybody a starting point. Okay, number one, we are going to go ahead and ignore the everyday carry items, flashlight, extra mag, basic kind of advanced level tourniquets and stuff. We're going to ignore that stuff for right now. We're going to just going to look at basic, kit type stuff that a person should have. Now, this is what I would call an individual first aid kit, folks. If you do not have one of these in your car and you're a storm chaser, I highly encourage you to get one because if you ever get in the position where you need to be helped, you probably aren't going to have any way to help yourself. Car accident, whatever, it doesn't matter. You need a way to help yourself before you can help other people. It doesn't matter what you put it in. You can put it in a Ziploc bag for all I care. You guys probably know Bob, our friend. He just gave me this random thing that he got from O'Reilly's and I filled it. So it just works out really well. But this goes literally everywhere with me. I don't go anywhere without this. It's always with me. It doesn't matter where I'm at. It's always within arm's reach. So what we have in here, there's going to be some things in here that you're not going to want to care about, and there's some things that you're going to want to care about, and I'll explain the differences. As a healthcare provider, there's things in here that I give a shit about that you're not going to give a shit about. No bullshit here. So first things, this is stuff you're probably not going to give a shit about. That's an alcohol pad. I don't know why that's there. But this is Narcan, guys. This is naloxone. This is basically a nasal atomizer that you would basically shove up your nose, or preferably it would be someone else's nose, and you would push this and it would atomize the naloxone in here. Now this would be for certain types of drug overdoses. Now the reasons that I carry this is because I firmly believe that people make dumb choices with drugs and overdose, and I have used this, I've deployed this my personal supply of this. This is free, by the way, folks. Your local health department should give you this for free. Otherwise, you can get it on the internet. This is not a controlled substance. Very minimal training to use this. Long story short, certain types of drug overdoses, and we're going to talk in depth about this too later, but certain types of drug overdoses, this will save someone's life if they're unresponsive or whatever. And I do believe, I know a lot of people are like, oh, they did it to themselves around drugs. It doesn't matter. It's still a person. It's still a mom, a dad, a sister, a cousin, a brother, whatever. So that's why I carry this. I started with 3 of these. I now have 2. You do the math. One's been deployed in the past 7 months. So I started carrying this relatively recently just because I've always thought it was a good idea to carry it. Anyway, so anyway, this is a tourniquet. Okay, this is a windlass tourniquet. This is not a cat tourniquet. This is not the cat windlass tourniquet. This is a shitty Amazon tourniquet. It works just fine. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, these can break, blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal, folks. Most people that are going to be using these are going to destroy them, ruin them, break them, etc. Okay, they're going to get lost in the mud. People can't afford to be carrying around $60 cat tourniquets, but they can afford to carry around these $7 to $8 ones that if it gets lost, whoop-de-doo, who gives a shit. I'll show you how to use one of these in a minute. But basically, this is a windlass tourniquet. You know, we're not going to talk about the SWAT T tourniquets that I carry on my person, but windlass just refers to this windy thing. The concept is it goes around a limb to stop a bleed, cuts off circulation, you tighten it down. We'll go in depth in a minute, but you need to carry this. If you carry nothing else, you need to be carrying this. This is an oral airway. Daniel Shaw calls it something else. It's some Australian thing, but I only carry one. I think this is like an 8mm wide. The reason I only carry one of these is this is the only size I've ever used. All of my ambulance days and all that, this was the only size that I ever used, was the green one. And essentially, this is something I wouldn't recommend carrying, obviously, unless you have some sort of training with this, but you'd use this to open an airway. So basically, you would just shove it in there, get the tongue out of the way, flip it around, and you could open up an airway. Don't worry about this. Do worry about this. Oops, well, that's not sterile. Good thing we don't care. That's a joke. But this is 4" by 4 yards. So this is like 4" by 12 feet. This is just gauze, okay? This is self-explanatory. If you have a cut, anything like that, gauze. If you have a gunshot wound, a puncture wound, anything like that, you can take this, unravel it, and just start shoving it in the hole. Like, I understand somebody's going to be like, oh, that's what she said in a Michael Scott reference. And that's true. Absolutely. But you literally just shove it in the hole. And I'm not trying to make this a joke, but honest to God, if there is a gunshot wound, puncture wound, whatever, and it's open and it's gushing blood, just wad it up into a ball and start packing the wound until it stops. I'll put this shit away later. Permanent marker. You should be carrying this too. For your tourniquet, you write the time that the tourniquet is applied. Now, this is getting into specific uses and how to use a tourniquet. We'll talk about that later, but recommend permanent marker. This is also controversial for whatever reason. This is this is the Rhino Rescue brand. This is an Israeli bandage. I think it's controversial because it has the word Israel in it, and people are fucking stupid. But this is an Israeli bandage, okay? I'll open one of these up in a minute, but essentially what this is, it's very similar to a lot of this gauze with a pad on it. So you'd put it over a wound, wrap it around, and then you can secure it. So it's kind of sort of the concept of a tourniquet, but not really. You're not using it to cut off circulation further down a limb, but you're going to be using it to basically cover a puncture wound, gunshot wound, something that is bleeding profusely that you need to stop that bleeding. Preferably pack it with this, put this over it. Again, we'll actually go into how to use these later on. This is just an introduction. You need to have a pair of scissors. If you don't have a pair of scissors, get a pair of scissors. These are, I guess you would refer to them as like trauma shears. You can get decent ones like this. These are like $6. And this is like a hole to open an oxygen bottle, but nobody actually really, I mean, you're not don't worry about it. But trauma shears, and the reason you get these is because these actually cut things. A pair of office scissors isn't, but these will cut mostly anything, and you'll need these whether you need to make a bandage out of clothing or honestly just cut this stuff, because you could use this for yourself or multiple patients if you cut it to size kind of thing. This is NAR gauze, North American Rescue gauze. This is vacuum packed, and this is essentially this, but wadded up kind of like a deck of cards, and it's folded. I've also heard it called Z gauze, where it's like stacked like a Z. Essentially, this is a lot of gauze and a lot of wound packing in a small package. So a lot of wound packing, small package. This is optional. You could honestly carry this or this. If I were to pick one, I would carry this because you could treat a minor injury with this. This, you can't really wrap it around a minor injury. It's more for wound packing. Again, we'll actually talk specifics on that. Gloves and tape. Paper medical tape, highly recommend. But gloves, you need to have some sort of gloves. In fact, gloves in multiple places. Put them in pairs in your pockets, whatever. If you don't have these, you're going to get sick. You're going to get, I almost said fentanyl poisoning, but I mean, I guess you could. But you're you're going to get like, I don't know. COVID. You're going to get COVID or Ebola or some bloodborne pathogen, okay? So this is, you have to have those. This is optional. Now this is epinephrine. This is an auto injector. This is for bee sting and stuff like that. I am allergic severely to bees and stuff, so this is more of a for me thing, but don't, trust me, if somebody else needs it, it's going in. So that's obviously optional. Here's that NAR gauze, S-rolled gauze, Z-rolled gauze, whatever. This is basically how it looks. I just took it out of that for demonstration, but it's 4.5 inches by 4 yards. It's 6-ply, cotton white, blah, blah, blah. But this is what the packaging looks like. Get it on Amazon. It's pricey, but I do recommend it, and minimal training is needed on that too. Now we're getting into, oh shit, somebody's been shot. But understand, folks, if somebody's been shot, that's a very similar type injury to, hold on. That's a very similar injury to if you just got stabbed. And when I say stabbed, you know, we're not talking about, oh shit, you know, there's a mall shooting going on. We're talking about, you know, debris. Debris can stab somebody, right? So chest seals, collapsed lungs, things like that. You need 2 of these. If you're going to carry them, you need to know how to use them. You need 2 of them, okay? An entry and an exit wound. It's not your job to determine which is entry and exit, but if there's an entry, there probably is an exit. And if there's not an exit, that person's probably really screwed up, because that means that whatever, well, if they were shot anyway, if they were shot and there's no exit, then that means that bullet's probably still in them, and it probably bounced around a little bit, and there's some serious carnage. Rush them to the hospital if it's not obvious already. But you can use these for puncture wounds. You know, somebody gets something in their chest or stuck in there from debris and they rip it out. You can also improvise with these. You could use, I've seen people use bags, or honestly something like the wrapper of this, put it on the wound or the hole, and then you tape 3 sides, and you basically made a chest seal or a chest vented seal. And essentially with that one open side, you're allowing the pressure to be relieved off of the chest cavity in there. Because as that lung expands and contracts, you don't want it. You don't want a tension pneumothorax. That's bad. We'll talk about that later. That'll cause significant pain and death. This is really an optional thing. I'm not a big fan of this quick clot shit. This is not the like healthcare provider quick clot. This is just like over the counter quick clot. This is a hemostatic dressing. This is gauze, so it's like this, but it's got this like substance on it that's supposed to stop bleeding. If somebody's got a gash in their leg and they are bleeding profusely, I am not putting this piddly shit on it. We're packing it full of this and a lot of this. But the reason I carry this is mainly for like small cuts that just, you know, arterial bleeds on a finger or something. This stuff does work. It's not a miracle worker like a lot of people say, in my opinion, but this is really an optional thing. Something that you need to have, in my opinion, not that. So this is a 5x9 combine pad, okay? So this is basically a big puffy gauze pad sterile dressing thing. It's 5 inches by 9 inches. You can get these in multiple sizes. I recommend carrying a 5x9, a couple 5x9s, because they're really just a good size. But if somebody's got a gash or an open wound or something that's bleeding, you can put this on there, because obviously just some of this crap ain't gonna do it. You're gonna need to actually put something that's got some mass to it on there. And this is what you would want to use for that. You could use that in conjunction, or at least a similar application to these. These are just non-adherent pads. These are 4x4s. Well, actually, this is a 3x4. It's pretty common to see these in 4x4, but I think I got 3x4s because they fit in there. But just a bunch of these. And you open this up, and it's literally just a little square of gauze for the most part. And obviously, you're going to want to carry these, but minor injuries or wound packing, stuff like that. So that's, if you're going to carry like the bare minimums, that's kind of what I carry for the bare minimums. Oh, and flashlight. If you guys don't have a legitimate everyday carry flashlight, then you need one in here. If you're not carrying one every day, you need one in here, because a lot of these times that we see injuries, they're at night. I recommend, not a sponsor, I would love them to be though, PowerTac M5. You can get this little pisser on Amazon. It's like 80 bucks. This is, honest to God, no joke, the best everyday carry flashlight that you will possibly ever find for the size. It's rechargeable. It's like 2,500 lumens. And the nice thing is, a lot of these flashlights like Olight, Surefire, Striker, their flashlights, they have this turbo mode, and they'll advertise them as, 2,500 lumens. Well, that's nice, but the problem is that's 2,500 lumens on turbo, and that turbo is only good for like 2 minutes, and then you can't use the turbo anymore until you recharge it. This, you can run it at full bore, balls to the walls the entire time you're using it. So, anyway, I will show you kind of the more kind of advanced level shit here. Now, this is one of 2 bags that I carry. I gotta get down on the floor here for this. But I carry, I'm not looking at the chat, guys, but this is one of 2 bags that I carry. This is essentially what I would grab if, this is what I grab every time, there's a tornado with injuries or a car accident. This is a little bit of everything. I have 2 other bags that are specialized. There's one that's specialized for minor injuries and restocking. And there's another one that's specialized for more traumatic, more serious advanced injuries. So anyway, I have this set up. A lot of this is stuff you're not going to give a shit about. Like these oral airways in here. Actually, let me do this. Like these oral airways. You're not going to really care about these, okay? Unless you're some sort of medical provider. Now, these are just, extra bulk windlass tourniquets. We'll demonstrate that in a minute. I keep one of the spare Israeli dressings there, gloves, and again, those 4x4 gauze pads, and then the quick clot, just a shit ton of it. This is essentially a pocket that's been set up so that if somebody's got a gross injury or just something really easy to treat, it's just one pocket. I also carry these, and this is something you should have, these thermal blankets. Now, the reason, if somebody's in shock and they're cold, these are great, but understand too that if we're dealing with tornado debris and car accidents and stuff, guys, if you need a clean space to help somebody, somebody's just gushing blood and there's dirt and debris everywhere and you need a clean setting, put one of these down. These are literally like 40 cents, and they're basically like kind of a tinfoil metallic-y material. Just put one down. They are literally the handiest thing that you might ever use. So I don't really ever use them as thermal blankets. I just use them as like a staging thing. So now I have a lot of stuff. This is stuff you probably won't care too much about either, but this is stuff that I carry. Now this is a blood glucose meter, BGL. Essentially, you've got these little finger prickers. You diabetics get it. You prick a finger, and you take a test strip. You put it in the meter. Tells you the blood sugar level. Now that's important. Diabetics. For determining, sometimes you have an altered mental state and you need to determine, okay, what's going on here? Are they diabetic? What's going on? Whatever. Don't really use this too much in emergencies unless it's specifically a diabetic emergency. Now I have this organized here, so I have a little bag of airways. This is essentially so that like I can yank stuff out of here without, having to tear the bag apart. Now what I carry in here, I carry a full set of oral airways, and we carry nasal airways too. So essentially this goes through, you shove this, you have to lube it up. No joke, it's KY jelly. It's sex lube. Don't use the fire and ice stuff though. Make sure it's just straight KY jelly or Vaseline. It's literally sex lube. Laugh at me all you want, but you lube this up. You insert this through the nose. You have an airway, and we'll talk about reasons why you need an airway and stuff like that, later on. In fact, I have KY jelly in here. Nope, that's not KY. That's just the regular lubricating jelly. But they come in these little packs, and you're not really going to care about this unless you're some sort of a medical provider or some sort of advanced first aid. I do carry like there's a forceps in here that's basically a big tweezers. So that's kind of getting beyond the scope of this. That's handy for removing an object from an airway. If you're not trained in it though, don't try to remove an object from an airway. I carry plenty of triage tags. This is what got me called out on Twitter in Rolling Fork, because we referred to as patients as black, and I kept calling out over the radio, which was heard in the car, black patients. and people thought that I was being racist. One of these Twitch Pokemon streamer guys made a big stink about being racist. I'm still waiting for the apology, but the reason they're color-coded, green is essentially walking wounded, yellow, this is something, this would basically be the patients that have an injury. It's not necessarily life-threatening, but they're going to need medical treatment. They cannot just walk on their own, essentially. Red, this is an emergency. You know, they need to go right now. And then black is essentially they're deceased. But this is something you're not going to be doing unless you're trained on it, okay? I'm just showing for demonstration purposes. But on these cards, oftentimes there's spots to rate patient identifying information, with your Sharpie that I talked about, time of vital signs and things like that. But oftentimes these don't really get used because, frankly, we really don't come on these mass casualty incidents where you're the only one there very often anyway. This is essentially a bag here, too. This is like minor medications and just over-the-counter stuff. This is like, minor boo-boos, antiseptic spray. This is glucose gel. I got a couple of these in here. This is for diabetics with extremely low blood sugar. There's just some burn cream in here, a couple ice packs. This is really nothing in here is really life-saving. I mean, I guess other than the glucose gel. Is this glucose? No, it's just the glucose. I thought that was the glucose. If you've ever actually had one of these, it's the most disgusting thing ever. Like, it tastes fine, but it's like sandpaper. It's literally just sugar in like a toothpaste liquid. But this is just stuff that I carry anyway because, not everything's a code red emergency. And so you have to deal with things that aren't emergencies too. I keep a couple N95s right here. That's just been there since COVID. This is a bag valve mask. So without pulling this apart, you're going to have some sort of training to use this, but honestly, a monkey could figure it out. This thing opens up, and I don't want to pull it apart. It's a one-time use, and it's basically a football-sized bag you squeeze, and you've got a couple different masks. You'd put this over somebody once you establish, an airway with something like this, or not if it's that urgent, and you'd begin ventilating for them. That's if they're not breathing on their own, or somebody's trying to do, CPR, and you want to make it actual CPR. That's something I would use for that. We'll take a look in the big pouch here. This is where I just keep a bunch of stuff that I'm always losing. So I carry a bunch of paper tape, because I always lose these, so they're front and center. And stethoscope and more gloves. You'll notice there's a theme here. There's gloves everywhere. This little first aid baggie is the sissy bag. It's just full of Band-Aids. Because I know it sounds ridiculous, but you know how many minor injuries you come across and someone's like, hey, you got a Band-Aid? Well, now there you go. I keep this tourniquet holster thing. It's always been a quick grab for me. I've had this for a while. I like it. It's a scissors with the tourniquet in it, and we'll demonstrate that in a minute. You don't have to have 50 tourniquets, 50 scissors in 50 different places. I just do because there's a reason, there's a method to this madness. We'll get into it later. In the front here, these are island dressings. So these are like, oh no, these are gauze pads. I'm sorry, these are island dressings. The island dressings is essentially a gauze pad, but it's got adhesive around it, so it's like a giant Band-Aid. Gauze pad is just the 4x4, but the island dressing is like the 4x4, but it's self-adhesive. And obviously, that's kind of a lower tier type emergency piece of equipment, but you got to have everything. So trauma dressing, I would recommend some of these. These are 12 by 30 inches. These are big trauma dressings, just like that 5-inch by 9-inch combine pad I showed you. There's a lot of mass here. Honestly, folks, I know this sounds terrible, but if you're using one of these, somebody's probably in rough shape. I'm talking an evisceration, which is, there's a cut to the abdomen and their intestines are hanging out. It happens, guys. Or somebody's got, a gash to the leg and it's profuse, it's huge. Something like this, or a giant, cut to the back of the back or something, a big pad like this, it's absorbent. Use these, and I carry plenty of these. And, here's those 5x9s. You see I carry plenty of those as well. This is not really a medical item, but this is something that I find very useful in these kind of large-scale incidents. You can see this one's been used partially. This is athletic wrap, and this is kind of optional, but I like this stuff because if you've never used it, it's really like stretchy and it's kind of sticky. So what I've done in the past is like a forearm injury where somebody's got, a bleeding forearm. a 5x9 or a couple 4x4s, and then wrap it with this athletic wrap. Carefully, you don't want to wrap it too tight, but tight enough to stop the bleeding. But this stuff works really well, and the reason I like it is because you can hand this to anybody and they know how to use it. If you hand somebody tape, they don't always know how to use it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And with medical tape and you're taping a wound, you don't want to just wrap around the limb. You want to wrap part ways, basically. But with this, it's stretchy. And honestly, guys, I've never handed this to somebody. I've had someone help me dress somebody's busted up forearm that's bleeding profusely, and I've handed them this, and there's no, hey, do it this way. It's just they know how to use it instantly. It's like natural to just wrap something, whereas with tape, you got to be like, hey, tear off 3 pieces, blah, blah, blah. Flashlight, this is a crappy flashlight, but I carry it here just as a backup. And I carry a bunch of these gauze rolls. These are the same rolls I showed you earlier, just a different package. 4-inch gauze, definitely want to carry that. Triangular bandages. Folks, I'm not going to open one of these right now, but in here you'll find 2 safety pins, and this is literally a triangular bed sheet. It's literally like I took the bed sheet, cut it into a triangle. It's 36 by 36 by 51 inches. You could use this to make a sling. You can use it to tie up a splint. All sorts of things. Again, that's a specific use case we're going to talk about in a future video. Now, these are SAM splints. These are actually awesome, guys. I love these. We've used them many times in the ambulance. But see this? You get the gist of it, right? So if somebody's got a busted arm or a busted, tib-fib fracture or something, or they're busted up, you can bend these, and they're awesome. So they're waterproof, they're reusable, and these can actually be put through the x-ray machine. So if you've done a really good job with this, the hospital is not going to have to pull this off. It's radio transparent. So here's an example of using it on like an arm. You would put it, you could splint the elbow and then tie it with a triangular bandage. You could splint a leg, kind of like, well, those are all examples of the same thing, but you can bend these and you can mold them around somebody's arm. And I absolutely love those things. I've used the hell out of those all the time in my career. These are just more Israeli dressings there. Here's another EpiPen auto injector, another scissors. You're noticing a theme here. I love scissors. And this, I think this is my blood pressure cuff. I never use this. Yeah, so this is a blood pressure cuff, and I almost never use that because most of the time you're dealing with, emergency type traumatic injuries. Who gives a shit about the blood pressure? Because honestly, if they're walking and talking, there's some sort of pressure in there. But there are times when you do need that, so for more trained folks. So I can show you guys the tourniquet. I'm not going to show you the Israeli because I don't want to pull another one apart. But I will show you guys the tourniquet, I guess. I don't know how to do this. And again, this is not an official how-to guide here, folks, but I do think that I'm trying to demonstrate that this stuff, this is not rocket science. So you can learn how to do this, okay? That's the whole point of this, is you can learn this stuff, and I'm going to show you here in future videos and such. Can you see that okay? I hope so. So there is a proper way to prep and maintain a tourniquet. We're not going to go over all that either. This is not, anything too crazy, but God, that hurt my toe. Of course, gloves. So when these come out of the package, they may or may not be done correctly, but you see the gist of this? So let's just say worst case scenario, oh my God, you're in a shootout, you're in a combat situation, and you're like, oh shit, my shit's everywhere. God help me, Johnny, my battle buddy, his leg just got blown off. He's dying. Oh shit, I don't know what to do. Help. Well, don't worry. It's not that hard, okay? Take the end, just reset it. Pull it straight, just like a strap. This is real simple. It's Velcro. It's hook and loop. See how I'm doing this? It's basically, you make a circle with it. The limb goes through here. I know that I'm trying to do this without having much of a look here. So anyway, worst case scenario, you don't have this prepped, or you can't pre-prep it. You can just go around the limb. Now, back up a second here. We're going to assume that there's an injury right here above my knee. You never ever put this on a joint. That's bad. Do not do it. Don't ever take one of these off, for the love of God, because there can be serious complications and bad stuff. Do not take one of these off unless you're a doctor or somebody that's almost a doctor, like a critical care type paramedic, a flight nurse. Somebody specifically tells you to, and trust me, unless there's a godforsaken emergency, they're not going to tell you to. Unless this thing is attached to their leg and this is somehow attached to something that's on fire, do not take this off. ever. There's serious complications that can come from that. Do not ever tourniquet over a joint. And only limbs. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but don't ever tourniquet a neck, the abdomen, whatever. What this does is this constricts against your body, your limb, and it stops bleeding further down distal or farther away. Not distal. I'm sorry. Farther away from the injury. Let's assume we have an injury right here where my gloves are. Okay. So the blood is coming from my heart, which is up above this, and it's going, down this way. It is returning, but the pressure, the atrial blood flow is going this way. So this would be a candidate for a tourniquet if this was busted up, bleeding profusely. We put the tourniquet over the wound, over or above. So you want to go, reasonably as high as you can. I'm just going to go here for demonstration because I have shit in my pocket, but you don't want to be right down on top of this wound unless you have to. If you have no choice, you have no choice. But it's going to be a lot less complicating if you can go up and stop the blood flow. Now, these are painful, and they're supposed to be. So you know it's working. I'm not going to try to injure myself here, but you yank this, basically yank this as tight as it'll go, and this is Velcro. I'm already feeling my blood pressure, so I know it's tight. You seriously yank this as tight as you can get it. You're going to hurt the patient. You're going to hurt the person. They already have a massive traumatic injury. They're in pain already. It doesn't matter. Yank this for the love of, literally, this is saving somebody's life. So yank this as tight as you can, like someone's life depends on it, because it does. So you would literally yank this as tight as you possibly can get it. Now the little timepiece up here, where you write on, this should be Velcro. You open that up. Now here's where the whole windlass thing comes in. This is the windlass. I hope you can see this. I hope you can see this okay. So with everything opened up here and such, you're not real. I wouldn't recommend putting this through right away. I saw somebody do it once. It still works. But have everything opened up, and you would take your windlass, and as you're tightening this, it's attached to both legs of this tourniquet, and it's going to tighten it. So you would, ouch, that's painful. And honestly, it does hurt, but I'll do it for demonstration purposes. So there you go. You would tighten it, and then it fits. See this hook? Hope you can see that. I'll zoom in on that. Fucking tiny thing. It fits in that hook. And then, well, preferably, you'd button it up all nice, write the time on there, and it's going to depend on your tourniquet, but this is nowhere near tight enough. Okay, if this was actually tight enough to stop the bleeding of my profuse imaginary injury, I would be probably screaming in pain right now. So, hope you never have to do it, but you can do these on, you can put this on yourself, and, if you're injured and everything. So that's why I strongly advocate that these storm chasers and stuff, carry something like this, because you can honestly save your own life with it. And again, don't ever, for the love of God, ever take this thing off unless you're a doctor or something. And even then, they don't want to do it. So that's kind of what I got. Let me check on the chat and everything. I just wanted to give an intro, test the algorithm and everything, and kind of show everybody what's going on here with some of this stuff. Shit, I'm going to have to order DoorDash soon. But I'm going to skim the chat here. But again, I'm going to do some kind of more in-depth stuff with this. I really am not looking forward to putting this back. But we're going to do some more in-depth instruction with some of this stuff to really break it down and make it simple. And the whole point of this video, I can't get this to connect again. This is honestly getting ridiculous. Come on, IHG. But the reason I wanted to show everybody is because I think it's important that folks know that this is something you can do, okay? You can save somebody's life with some pretty basic equipment. And I really don't like in the weather world or the storm chasing world that there's this whole attitude of, I'm not a first responder. Okay, cool, you're not, but you're also the first on the scene, and you put yourself in that position, so maybe you need to be. And again, I know that that's controversial. I don't care. I believe that we're all humans, and we should help each other no matter what. Let's see if I can get my chat open again. I'm gonna have to go to YouTube, son of a gun. But I'm going to do more live streams like this. I know people like to know kind of what goes on behind the scenes of stuff like this. Is this really going to make me play through an ad? It's my channel. You got to be kidding me, dude. All right. So... No, I am not a legend. Remember, I'm the worst thing. I'm the worst storm chaser ever. I'm terrible. I do no good for anybody. 182Q, thanks for your super chat. Yeah, I will be doing more in the future. I just wanted to kind of see how this goes. I just wanted to give kind of an intro because I felt like we needed some sort of an intro to reference. So like in the future when we plan these, we can be like, hey, you know, if you just want an overall, you know, guide of the shit that I carry, here you go. So I think that kind of makes sense. No, Scott, I left the ambulance world several years ago. Zach, your video on YouTube came up again, but it was a different body camera channel this time though. It started auto playing. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, Zach doesn't like the powdered quick clot. I've heard the same. So we never carried it on the ambulance, but I've never worked anywhere that's had the powdered quick clot, and I think that's kind of a military thing anymore. But I don't think I've ever, honestly guys, I don't think I've ever touched the powdered quick clot, which is basically just like looks like powdered sugar, and you just dump it in there and then you start packing the wound. I think it's kind of I think it's one of those things where it's like you either like it because you've been trained with it and that's just kind of what you've always used and you've actually used it a lot, or you don't like it because you've never trained with it and you feel like if you have to use it, it's just going to get in the way. I'm kind of in that group because I feel like if somebody's got a gushing bloody leg or something, I'm not going to sit there and salt shaker on some quick clot and hope for the best. Like I'm going to start shoving stuff in there. So I kind of agree with that too. It seems like that's kind of the consensus. At least, you know, these protocol, you know, EMS protocols and first aid stuff always varies on like area, but like Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, I don't think I've ever seen anybody that's got powdered quick clot, whether it's law enforcement, fire department, ambulance, you know, because a lot of fire departments don't have EMS training. They're just like CPR certified or whatever, and even they don't have it. When I was at the ambulance service, we worked with a lot of sheriff's departments and stuff in the area. I think there was 6 of them that we did training, like first aid training for, and not one of them, and they basically supplied their own wish list of things to be trained on. And nobody ever came up and said, hey, here's this powdered quick clot stuff. This kind of quick clot I've seen, but I wouldn't waste money on this. Honestly, like the way that you know, and I'm not a doctor, so you can have your own opinions, folks. But just in my history of using this, I'll tell you a story. So you guys might remember the Lewin, Mississippi tornado last year, or the year before, whatever it was. It was me and this one sheriff's deputy, and that guy was awesome. He was on scene. We were the first ones there, and that guy was awesome. He was like running trees over with his Dodge Charger and shit, but he had a bunch of this. And he's like, you ever use this? I'm like, yeah, just start sticking it in there. And honestly, a lot of this got pulled out because he had like 3 or 4 of these open, and they're basically just strips of gauze with this, and it just kept bleeding through it, and he's like trying to pack some wounds with it, and he's like, that's not working. I'm like, yeah, screw that. So he actually pulled it out, and we just started using the S-rolled gauze, or the NAR gauze, the North American Rescue. The NAR is a brand, but this stuff's kind of pricey. But I mean, if you want to go with this stuff, guys, and get, you know, trained on it, go for it. I mean, it's obviously not going to do any harm, but this stuff's expensive. I personally, if I was on a budget, I would not bother with this. I would maybe put the money into like chest seals because, well, honestly, guys, I know this is terrible to talk about, but we live in a world where people are shooting at each other now, and just because it's not a gunshot doesn't mean you're not going to need a chest seal. It could be a stab or an accidental puncture. I don't know. You're working on your car and you stab a screwdriver through your chest. That almost happened to me once. I had a screwdriver propped up and I went down on it and it poked a pretty good bruise, and I got really lucky. Could have went right through it. Could use a chest seal for that. If it was a sucking chest wound, for lack of a better way to put it, but these are kind of pricey, so maybe I would stay away from this and go with some chest seals. I would buy some good ones. They do expire, but they usually last for several years. But you can make a chest seal. You can just take, honestly, the wrapper of something and then tape it on 3 sides. I thought I saw somewhere that protocol now was, I don't know if that was protocol now, is to tape all 4 sides, but when I went through training, and honestly the EMS protocols that I'm still bound to are tape 3 sides, not 4, but whatever. So that's that. Yeah, so no, I agree. The comment about that this is kind of paramilitary, yeah, and I have to say that with care, because some people refer to paramilitary as basically anything public safety, whether it's fire, law enforcement, ambulance, stuff like that. A lot of anything with some sort of like structural organization or command structure, a lot of people just refer to that as paramilitary. If you Google paramilitary, like Urban Dictionary tells you it's a bunch of people that are LARPing and pretending to be like NASA, Space Force, whatever. But this is something, honestly, if you're out here, you probably need to know how to do. If you're out here professional, like the hobbyists and stuff, I get it. But, when you go and be, I don't care if it's mall cop security or, your ski first aider or actual law enforcement or whatever, this is basic stuff. This individual kit here is this basic stuff that a lot of these folks are carrying as bare minimum. And you don't have to have this giant BLS like first aid bag plus the other 2 in the car. You don't need that. You just need this stuff, because most of the time, realistically, folks, you're not going to have time to exhaust all of these resources, because somebody's going to show up, whether it's the cops or the fire department or the ambulance or somebody else. You're probably not going to be able to exhaust all these resources. The reason I carry all that is basically for variety, and sometimes as somebody who does have medical training or is a healthcare provider, people come to me for this stuff. So that's why I carry that. That's why I carry this stuff. And again, I even carry the ankle holster. This is not a concealed carry. This is not a pistol holster that's carried elsewhere. But just this is really nice for flashlight and the stuff in here, which we'll talk about that later. That's kind of extra. But I thought about teaching EMS. No, because to have the instructor license, you've got to do all this bull crap, and I don't want to do it. I really don't. Am I in Oklahoma? No, I'm in Pennsylvania. Powdered quick clot has to be cut out. That sounds terrible. Yeah, I've never used super glue to close a wound. I mean, people can use it for if you have a cut on your finger. I've never seen an ambulance protocol to glue somebody back together, and I'm not trying to be like a smartass, but yeah, I've heard of people gluing themselves back together, and honestly, I guess it works. So do so at your own risk. I don't know. Definitely not an emergency situation, no. I'm way behind in the chat. I am so sorry. I think I just deleted some messages too by mistake. Sorry. Somebody wants to be banned. Okay. What? We got a troll in the chat? Oh, wow, that's a first. Yeah, so Christine says, so yeah, in Germany, that's a common thing, but I'll be honest with you guys. So, in the US, there's lots of different levels of EMS. Some places require, whether it's law enforcement, obviously ambulance, but whether it's law enforcement or fire, a lot of them sometimes require basic first aid or like an advanced first aid, but they don't require them to have like an EMR, or emergency medical responder license, which is like a step below an EMT. A lot of these fire departments do, but a lot of them don't. And in fact, a lot of fire departments don't have medical training, period. They are literally the fire department. And those are most common in these like rural areas. So like in eastern Iowa, that's a good example. Eastern Iowa, I did some work there before, and a lot of those guys are not medically trained. Now, I mean, they know how to put a tourniquet on, stuff like that, but it's on their own training. They don't have any sort of medical certification. They are basically just, they're there to put out the fire and cut you out of the car. Anything else is extra, and that's because that there's like no manpower. They've got like 6 people on the fire department, and their fleet is like an old milk truck that was converted to a water tanker. It's got one red light on it, and a pickup truck from 1980. That was weird. That was weird. Or a pickup truck from like 1985, and that's the fire department. And they do the best they can do with what they got, and they trust me, they don't have no time for this stuff. So just often, it's pretty common here. It's common, but it's not to see non-medically trained fire. Brady, for some reason, Stream Elements keeps deleting your messages, and I'm not sure why. Like every message you send, it's deleting. I honest to God don't know why. I really don't. Every single message you send, it's deleting, and I have no idea why. Let's see here. God, I was way behind in the chat. Zach, I hope you don't hate me for this, but I typically go with Taurus, not the old Millennium stuff though, but I carry a G3C. It's cheap, and frankly, if something ever happens to it or it's used, it's probably not going to get given back to me anyway, so might as well carry it cheap. But honestly, guys, I'm not trying to turn this into GunTube, but people that follow this industry, Taurus don't have a good name. The PT 111s or whatever they are, the Millennium series, they had a lot of, they just didn't work. But they did fix that. I have a Glock 43X, 1719, all sorts of shit. I do not carry the SIG stuff anymore. The only reason I kind of lost interest in SIG was that whole P320 thing where they were just like shooting themselves if they were bumped, and that creeped me the hell out. Our sheriff's department actually had a bunch of those, and they pulled them all back in and got the hell rid of them when that whole they get bumped and they go off, which I think was blown out of proportion probably, but I don't know. I tell you what, the spot that I carried in, if that thing goes off, if it's accidentally bumped, we're gonna have a big problem. So but it kind of depends because what I'm wearing. So the 43X is honestly preferred because it's a little bit slimmer and everything, but I don't like the grip on it. The Taurus has a nice sandpapery grip. You can put the Talon grip on the 43, but I don't like the feeling of it's too hard on my hands. I'm kind of a wussy with that. Okay, now Brady's back. You have a fingertip that was super glued at the hospital. Yeah, well, hey, if it works, it works. Oh my God, I am so far back in the chat. But, yeah, that's what I got. Yeah, I can't really carry a 19. It doesn't, I'm not it doesn't fit in my pants. But yeah, 19s are good. Nikki has a small arsenal at home. The problem is nothing fits her hands at all. So I don't know. Don't recommend anybody breaks in because everything that I don't carry is there. But it's a challenge finding something because her hands are that big. So, and I don't believe in 380. It's too small. But anyway, folks, that's kind of all I got. Do the tornadoes and snow pull guns on you often? They do, all the time. These tornadoes are out to get us. These tornadoes are racist. They're sexist. They are horrible. They're out to get you. If you voted for Kamala, then they're out to get you. If you voted for Trump, they're out to get you too. You know, they don't care. They're gonna come get you. Anyway. You see, this channel right here is the perfect example of why we have a good audience, because there's people in here that probably have no idea what we're talking about, and I'm trying to be vague, but you know, we talk about all sorts of stuff on this channel, whether it's weather, EMS, ambulance crap, firearms. We talk about all sorts of shit here, and nobody ever fights. Ever. About it. Ever. Yeah, I am feeling better. I haven't had another stomach ache attack, so. Did somebody say recorder? Oh, God. Not Brady. Brady, somebody said something about a recorder. God help us. So yeah, that's that. How much Narcan? I don't know. Oh boy. Well, I got a DoorDash, but I just wanted to go over stuff. To go over it. Just, you know, to have something. Plus, the more we live stream, the better. You're welcome, Linda. Yeah, I haven't been. Yeah, those Rockford floods were crazy. What would you give a 15-year-old for protection when she is out? A flashlight. They're not a sponsor, but if they're watching, PowerTac M5. This is a good everyday carry flashlight, and it's got the like serrated bezel. I strongly feel that if somebody is following me at night and you know they're a threat to me and they tell me they're going to steal my wallet, I really believe that a good crack against some part of them with this would probably deter the threat. I would definitely recommend a flashlight. The bigger the better. I love flashlights. In fact, if you can get a giant mag light that's like this long, specifically one that takes D-cell batteries, it weighs about 10 pounds. That's probably your best bet. You could probably even play baseball or t-ball with it if you wanted, but people, the PowerTac M5, and I'm dead serious, like this is a self-protection item, because you know, you're outside at night, you legitimately can blind the shit out of somebody, and you cannot get mugged if you blind the crap out of them with this. And you need to be able to see where you're going. In fact, I carry like 55 flashlights at all times. Where's my bag? Somebody say flashlight. So this thing, this is PowerTac. This is the FL4200. This is ridiculous. Ouch. In fact, here, check this shit out. Watch this. This is nuts. All right, can you see? Barely, right? Check this shit out. All right, so anybody who doesn't know, like if you're trying to light up a room, don't point it at stuff, just like point it at the ceiling. It kind of cascades everywhere, but like, look at this. Like it's almost brighter now than it was before. And you know, you got your built-in push to strobe function, which is right there. That'll blind the hell out of you. And PowerTac M5 is also just about as bright. Not quite as bright, but about as bright. And if you're really cool, you could run them both at once. But in fact, I think honestly guys, I'm probably just going to, oh no, I do have a light control right here. But seriously, good light, kind of expensive, rechargeable. This is more of like a duty light. This was actually recommended, this is how I found PowerTac. This was recommended to me. A fan from the channel is the sheriff down in Mississippi, and I met him in whatever county that Lewin is in, and this is what he had the night of that Lewin tornado, and it's badass. This is a really good searchlight. It is 4200 lumen, and it's actual lumen. And this will run at 4200 lumen full bore without backing down or whatever for, I think it's a good solid 45 minutes, and that's pretty significant. That's how I found PowerTac. I really like that light. We're not done yet. Olight. This is an Olight Warrior 3S. This is the stupidest thing I've ever bought. I hate this flashlight. I like this light, but I hate it. It's very. This is a spot beam, so like you can shoot really far with it. And I like the button on it, so you can go half push and hold for a momentary, or you can go full push for full power. So low power, full power, or you can click it on. But the problem with these Olights, this is a good light. It even features a proximity sensor, so if you're running at full power and you're trying to read something, watch, see it dims. So you're not blinding yourself. But the problem, or burning a hole in your pocket, I've done that. But the problem with this light here specifically, the turbo, which is like the 2000 lumen setting, only lasts for like, I don't know, for like 120 seconds, like 2 minutes. And that's a software limitation in the light. So once it gets below that, you're limited to 800 lumens. And this is still a good light at 800 lumens, but for less money, you can get PowerTac M5 that's 2500 lumens or 2005 or 2050, whatever it is, that's basically full power for like 30 to 45 minutes. So I would recommend this over this. But this is a cool light because you got a button here, you got a tail switch. This is a good light. I do recommend it. It's probably be a good everyday carry light because you usually don't use like an everyday carry light very often. But honestly, like I do enough dumb shit, like even just trying to like change a tire on the side of the road or get my luggage out of the car. I don't want to charge it every night, so I usually just charge this once a week, and I've never had this die on me. Waterproof, beat the crap out of stuff with it. I broke a car window with this. It still has the gouge to prove it. And that was actually not any sort of heroic act. It was somebody at a hotel parking lot who locked their keys in their car. And I was like, well, if you find me a coat hanger or something, I can unlock your car. And he's like, no, I'm freaking late for this interview, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, break the window. I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, just break the window. I'm like, whatever. So we broke the window with this, and they're solid. They're aluminum. A little more solid than this. This is a good solid light, but I feel like this would break. But again, that's an Olight. That's the Warrior 3S. Olight makes a lot of like weapons mounted lights. I would probably get a Surefire over this. I'm not a big fan of the Surefires. I just don't think you get enough bang for your buck. They're a little overpriced, but these PowerTac ones, guys, they're good, and they got a good warranty on them, and they'll back them up. And they take what battery is this? 18650s, which is pretty common flashlight battery. So anyway, that's flashlight talk. I love flashlights. You rob drug dealers with the same flashlight? You gotta be kidding me, man. Wait, which one? I need your opinion. I've never robbed a drug dealer with it, though. I cannot attest to that. I'm sorry. You tuned in late. Well, that's okay. But no, seriously, folks, these two lights are, well, I wish I brought my other light up. This light here is brighter than the headlights on your car, so no joke, like you can drive with this at night. I actually have another light that's kind of between this and this. It's the PowerTac E9R. A little brighter than this, but it doesn't have the spot pattern. It's more of a flood pattern like this, so it's a really nice compromise, but that just stays in the car. It's just too big. So yeah, we love flashlights. Seriously, like I have some sort of attraction to flashlights. I have more flashlights than you can imagine. So, folks, oh, I appreciate it for the weather service employee. By the way, NWS employee in the chat. I totally understand where you're coming from. Go to seethestorm.net/locator. Right. Let me make sure that's right. And if you go to seethestorm.net/locator. That is a web page like this that it shows you at the top the local forecast office for your location, their phone number. Now this is just off the NWS API, so I can't guarantee that phone number, but at least the most important thing is the office, because a lot of spotters are always not knowing their office. And then it gives you latitude, longitude, county, nearest city, whatever, and any weather alerts that are open. This just comes off the API also. But if you do try this, and as a NWS employee, if you're not happy with how this is displayed at all, you can email at the bottom of the screen. It's info@seethestorm.net, and you can just as a weather service employee, if you have a professional opinion that like there's an issue with this, it sucks or something should be done different, let me know. And if you don't want to say where you work, that's fine too. But like I won't tell anybody. But I've gotten some feedback from other weather service employees that have actually given me their like spotter phone numbers to put on this database for their WFO, and I think that's really cool. And I've gotten it for 4 of them, and apparently there's more coming because one of them's doing some outreach for me. But I told them, I'm like, these should really be published in the API, because there's some API database that you can nail, that you can whack the API with a call and get this info, and it brings it up on screen. That's how I'm doing it. And I'm like, really need to change the API database. So I guess somebody's putting in like some sort of ticket or support recommendation to actually include those in the API, which would be great. What about flashlights? I wouldn't recommend that because that's a totally different purpose. This is a flashlight to see at night. Sorry, that's funny. If I look like I'm crying or something, Nikki put lotion on my face this morning. I'm pretty sure she got it in my eyes. It hurts terrible. You got an awesome LED flashlight at Costco. Well, we got to hear about it. This is Flashlight Channel now. Any issue keeping that in the hot card or anything? What in the hot card? The flashlights? No. Unless you're talking about like the bags and stuff. Like the bags, because these chest seals have like this goopy Vaseline stuff on them. All this stuff I try to keep relatively climate controlled. Kind of, it's not the end of the world, but you have a 3-foot flashlight under your bed. I'm impressed. I hope it's epic. You have the Olight Warrior? Do you really? Yeah, it gets hot. I know. I don't have that one yet, but I actually, anybody who's not familiar, the Olight Warrior. The Olight Warrior would have been the predecessor. Was there unless you're talking about if you've had it for a few, I think the original Warrior was a little bit smaller and damn near as bright, but I think the Warrior, which I have not collected yet, it's not, I don't think it's just they're only selling the 3 and the 3S. But the regular, the OG Warrior, I think had some thermal issues. But if I remember right, people had better reviews of it than the new ones for some reason. Hold on here. Brandon Kopic has entered the chat. His truck's broken, so he got a hold of me to help him fix it. So we'll help him fix it real quick here, I guess. All right, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. How do I know so much about flashlights? Because are you really a man if you don't have like 50 flashlights? So. You're a lifeguard. Do you recommend a bag and AED? I wouldn't worry about the defibrillator, honestly. You're probably never going to use it unless you're talking about like on the job. But like some sort of a bag, I would just do like this kind of optional thing, in this individual kit. I mean, that's fine for home use. I mean, I would just focus on the like stop the bleed stuff mostly. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here, folks. You're fine. I need to piss. Check in, and I'm sure this needs to cool down. Okay, Joy, your piss chat says hello. What's wrong with Brandon's truck? Well, I don't know yet, so I hope it's the water pump. Windy out. This is some bullshit. Yeah, fuck those bitches. Quit being a little bitch about the lotion. You are behind in the chat, Nicole. Please refresh. You know what? I have, Christine made the comment about the cheap little USB clip light stuff. I've actually seen some really good flashlights for really dirt cheap. So just because it's a cheap light doesn't mean it's a bad light. I've seen some good cheap lights too. This actually has been a fun live stream. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm actually going to show off my flashlight. And not a sponsor, but if you know PowerTac, if you're out there, oh, is this isn't? Oh, it is reverse. The PowerTac, if you're out there, I'm not kidding. Just give me some free lights. I'll talk about you. But you can reverse the belt clip. Check this out. I'm gonna blow your guys' minds. You ready for this? Watch this. Look at that. Now you can be the freaking working on cars guy. So I'm gonna use that. Have a good night, folks. I will see you guys tomorrow at some point. And I hope you guys take care. All that, blah, blah, blah. Have a good night. I gotta put all this shit back together. And see you soon. Thanks again.
Here's my honest review of Mint Mobile's unlimited plan. I love a good deal.
Add on my